Grace and peace and spoiler alert for the movie In the Heights. It has been a long pandemic. I have been watching streaming movies and talking about just whatever my family happened to choose to watch on Hulu or Netflix. And I'm really excited to be doing Movie Pastor back in the theater and talking about the movies that you might have seen recently. And I think it's really appropriate that begins with In the Heights, a movie that spoke to me really personally for such a time as this, in terms of overcoming pandemic difficulties. So there's a ton to dig into. Let's get started. If I didn't mention, I'm the movie pastor. I'm a pastor. I work at a church, and I talk about the theology in movies, but not like in a evangelical try to convert you way, just kind of like these issues are out there and let's engage them intelligently. So we've got some explicit references to God, a actually fairly large amount of Christian theology explored in the movie, mostly within the Spanish language, which is really interesting, right? You won't normally see a Western Hollywood movie that regularly says things like hallelujah or praise Jesus, God bless you, have faith. But we see that in the Heights. The characters are saying these things to each other, but they're saying them in Spanish. So in the song Breathe, you've got the Dios te bendiga, right? God bless you. If you lose your way, God bless you or God help you. And you've got Alabanza. Alabanza, abuela Claudia, Señor, alabanza. So praise to, lifting unto God, Grandma Claudia, almost like she's a saint, right? Thank you, God, for the witness of Grandma Claudia. And of course, centrally to the main theme of the movie, you have paciencia y fe, patience and faith. But the faith that's being talked about isn't faith meaning having a religion, right? It isn't faith meaning being really devout and going to church a lot. It's faith meaning faithfulness, meaning sticking to your commitments and following through, having patience and faith to endure. That, by the way, is what faith means. But if we say these things in English, they get jarbled and confused, and so it's more effective. I think when I was younger, if I had made this observation, hey, they're talking about religion a lot, but they're always doing it in Spanish, I would have blamed it on creeping liberalism and the lefties nowadays won't allow you to talk about Jesus and you've got to hide it. But I actually think they're talking about Jesus more effectively by speaking to a cultural understanding and an aspect of the culture that these people have. Whether they come from Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or Cuba or Mexico, there is a ton of Christianity there, especially Catholicism, and it's just part of the culture. And if you're going to engage and have conversations with those people, you're going to hear those kind of phrases. And it's in there because it's true of the life of these people and the way they think. And so then that leads us from the explicit references to the implicit ones. Because if what we're learning about these people is that these are a people who are steeped in Christian theology, who are a part of a Christian culture, who ask themselves before they sing Carnaval de Barrio, what would Jesus do? Then what they're dealing with and what they're talking about is not unrelated. Their lives are not unrelated to the Christian experience and to Christian theology. So we then need to ask the question, okay, what's the main movie about? What's the main theme? Even if the main theme, one of the main themes is paciencia y fe, But another of the main themes, and perhaps the more central, Paciencia y Fe, helps along the theme of sueñitos, which is what the narrator, Usnavi, the protagonist, tells us the story is going to be about, right? So they let you know, like, this is the thing to pay attention to in this movie. Everybody's got a sueñito. And I watched this movie twice. I watched it first with a wonderful friend that I've rekindled a relationship with, Lee, and then I watched it again with several ladies who go to my church. And the first time, if I'd gotten in front of a camera and talked to you about it after just the first viewing, I probably would have pontificated on the idea of sueñitos as vision, right? As goal setting. And, you know, as a leader in a Christian church, I'm often talking about vision and mission and values and how are we going to do strategic planning, and centrally, what is your vision, right? What is that thing that God has given you a hope for and a dream for? What are you praying for? What do you have a heart for? And can we motivate you to, like, blow those embers into flame and do something? Because if we do that, we can make a huge difference for the world. But after my second viewing, I found a much deeper concept that's buried in this idea of a sueñito, because a sueñito is not a sueño. It's a little dream, and so it, you know, just like Paciencia y Fe, we can say patience and faith, but if someone yelled patience and faith, you'd be like, what? That's a really religious thing to say. And it's not. And the same thing, if someone's like, I have this little dream, kind of ignore the little, but the little is important. The little is the point. And so in this movie, and in the play that came before it, in the first song we hear, everybody has a job, everybody has a dream. But nobody makes any progress on their dreams, not even with a lottery winner in the barrio, until the blackout. And it's at that moment, at the blackout, at the loss of hope, when Abuela starts to sing, we are powerless, that things start happening. And that's disagreed with, right? That's a controversial statement. Because we also, and I've got to check her name, but the owner of the beauty shop disagrees. You know, Daniela, she says, we are powerful. And both are true. Because there's this moment in the blackout where all of the characters are both powerless and powerful. They're both literally powerless in terms of electricity, but also, like, subjected to issues of utilities. I live in Texas. I've had utilities that just didn't do a good job lately with my baby, and so we were without heat during a snowstorm. And so there's this amount of subjugation, this amount of oppression, and yet also we are powerful. We can have a carnaval de barrio. And you see Abuela Claudia invite people over to her house and play bingo. And you see Benny on the dispatch go back and say, I might not have a job tomorrow, but I've got one tonight. And I'm not just trying to move up in the world. It's not just that I've got skills. It's that what I do matters. I'm going to get people to go to the hospital. And the best example, at least I think for me personally, is Sonny, who grabs the fireworks and says, these are free. Apparently they're from Usnavi's shop, right? But we gotta light up the barrio. We gotta help people find their way home. He literally provides lights in the darkness. And so the central theological message is that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. That I am weak, but he is strong, as the song goes. That when we are at our lowest, when we are at our weakest, when there is very little that we can do, then that little amount makes a much bigger difference. I don't know how I missed it the first time around. I mean, it's right there in the text. Usnavi tells the kids, I'm not gonna give you some fairy tale. A sueñito isn't this bright, shimmering thing. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it doesn't come true. You know, some stories are bittersweet. Or Abuela Claudia, who says, we assert our dignity in small ways. That's why these napkins are beautiful. It's these ways that we show the world we're not invisible. So Papa Rosario's dream is to have a daughter who would go to college like he never got to. Sonny's dream is to be a citizen, to be allowed to participate in life the same way as everyone else. Abuela Claudia's dream is to endure and to survive, and maybe, just maybe, to get to see the stars again. And I love that she got to. In the blackout. I didn't realize it the first time, but she says it before she sings the song, that the stars are out tonight in the heights. These small little glimmers. And it turns out that Usnavi's sueñito, his big dream, his little dream, is not to have this grand adventure and create a new life in the DR, but rather to hold the stories of the people who come through his shop in a neighborhood that is disappearing and carry them and honor them from where he is, from his small shop on the corner, which is exactly, by the way, Lin-Manuel Miranda's goal in writing this story, right? To preserve the stories of these people through musical theater. And I don't think it's any mistake that, you know, Lin-Manuel wrote the part of Usnavi for himself and played it for many years on Broadway. But he has received criticism for this play. And some of the criticism deals with the fact that, you know, he's making it out like gentrification is this really fun thing, and we can dance it away. That these huge systemic problems in society are something to have a colorful romp about, because the play is kind of hopeful. It's full of hopes and dreams, and how dare ye? But that's exactly the point. That's exactly what he's saying. He's not saying these problems aren't big. He's not saying these things are fun, but he's saying we can have fun in the midst of them. The darkness is out there, and it is very dark, but we can light a match, and a small amount of light in a dark place makes a huge amount of difference. And that, I mean, that's not only obviously true, and an idea that a lot of people can relate to, especially within the Latino community, but it's an idea that I related really deeply to. Coming out of this pandemic, y'all, it's been hard for me. I'm an extrovert, and I love going to movies publicly. That's my self-care, and I haven't been able to do it. And even now, as we're coming out of it, and there's talk of Delta variants and the possibility of another shutdown, and I'm at a new church, and so there's like hope for me on one end to cast a new vision and a new mission and do something incredible. You know, it's like, it's possible again, things are opening up, and then there's this other reality that, like, I'm tired. You know, it's been hard, and I want to take a break. And I think a lot of you probably feel the same way. Like, there's simultaneously this eagerness and this sense of, like, I've got gifts, I've got skills, I want people to notice, I want to do stuff, and also I want to lie in bed all day and kind of cry. And I think that what In the Heights is reminding us is that in times like these, as we recover from the social blackout that was this pandemic, the small things we do, the little acts of kindness, the little glimmers of light are significant. They matter. And I hope that this video has been a little glimmer of light for you. If it was, I hope you share it. And I hope I see you next week as I talk about another movie. Thank you much. Bye.